This is Conversations on Careers and Professional Life. I'm your host, Gregory Heller. On this series, I'll turn lessons from my MBA course, Professional Communication, into practical insights you can use every day. On this episode, I'm talking about a simple rule or practice that can dramatically improve your slide design, and just as importantly, your delivery. I referenced it in the last episode. It's called the glance test. Here's the idea. If your audience can't understand the point of your slide in about 3 seconds, the slide isn't doing its job. Not the details, not the nuance, just the point. When you're presenting, your audience is doing two things at once. They're listening to you and they're looking at your slides. But that's a fragile balance. The moment a slide demands too much reading or decoding, your audience stops listening. They shift into figure this out mode, and you've lost control of the narrative. The glance test exists to protect attention. It ensures your slides support your voice rather than compete with it. The glance test doesn't mean oversimplifying complex ideas, dumbing down analysis, removing rigor or nuance. It means front-loading clarity. In about 3 seconds, your audience should be able to answer one question. What's this slide about? If they need to squint, read a paragraph, or trace 5 lines on a chart to figure that out, the slide has failed the test. Your job as a presenter is to do the thinking for them first. The fastest way to pass the glance test is with a strong title. Compare market share by region with we're losing market share in the Midwest despite overall growth. The second title tells the story instantly. The audience knows what to listen for before you even start talking. A good rule of thumb One way to think about this is that if someone were to read your slide titles from the first slide to the last, they should still understand the full narrative of your presentation. That's the glance test applied across the entire deck. Charts are often the biggest offenders when it comes to the glance test. Dense tables, multi-axis charts, rainbow-colored lines, they might feel thorough, but they slow down comprehension. A slide that passes the glance test has a single visual focus. It uses color intentionally to highlight the takeaway. It removes chart noise like grid lines, legends, and labels that don't add meaning. It avoids unnecessary precision. If everything is emphasized, then nothing is emphasized. Your visual should answer one question clearly, not 5 questions vaguely. In an upcoming episode, I'm going to talk a bit more about data visualization. One of the most common mistakes I see is designing slides as if they're meant to be read silently. Live presentation slides are spoken. They exist to support what you say, not replace it. If your slide needs a paragraph of text to explain itself, it's probably a document, not a presentation, and I'll talk more about the difference between slide docs and slide decks in an upcoming episode. So run this check. If you weren't in the room, would the slides still make sense? If yes, great. If it only makes sense because you're explaining it for 30 seconds, then simplify it. Here's the 3-second rule in practice, and a practical exercise that I tell my students to try. Put a slide on the screen, turn away. Turn back after 3 seconds, ask yourself, do I know what this slide's trying to say? If the answer isn't an immediate yes, revise it. This exercise is effective and slightly uncomfortable, but it works. And here's the payoff. Slides that pass the glance test make your delivery calmer, more confident, and more persuasive. You stop rushing. You stop apologizing for your slides. You let the story unfold a bit more naturally. A quick reminder, Clarity on the slides does not mean removing depth from the work. Depth belongs in your appendix, backup slides, written memos, the Q&A. The main deck is a narrative spine. The appendix is the evidence library. When you separate the two, both get better. The glance test is one of those principles that's easy to understand and hard to unsee once you've learned it. After today, you'll notice slides everywhere that fail it, and when you design with the glance test in mind, your audience will thank you, even if they can't quite explain why. So next time you build a slide, ask yourself, can someone understand the point of this slide in just 3 seconds? If yes, you're on the right track. Thank you for listening to Conversations on Careers and Professional Life. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it with a friend or classmate. Help others find the show by leaving a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. Conversations on Careers and Professional Life is produced by me, Gregory Heller, with support from the Foster School of Business, Office of MBA Career Management. Learn more about the show, find show notes and past episodes, and get in touch with me at conversationsoncareers.com.